Hello, I'm Carrie, and welcome to episode 2 of the Sego Fibers podcast. Alright, welcome. If you're new here, glad you're here, and if you're a returning viewer, I'm so glad you're back. It's great to see you again. This is a knitting podcast where I'll talk about what I'm working on, projects I finished, and any other crafty things that are relevant to knitting. Let's see. First up is the best finished object that will probably ever be on this podcast, and so I'll insert a clip here. So here's Lydia. She's 1 month old today, and she's doing really well. Hopefully she'll take a nice nap for us so we can have a podcast. But, so she's sporting our first finished object for today, this little baby hat. We'll see if she sleeps. So we have 2 other kids, a boy named Ethan, a girl named Veronica, and now Lydia. And for 2 or 3 weeks, we had 3 kids under 3. Ethan is now 3 years old, but they'll keep me busy for sure. But yeah, they're doing well. As far as knitting finished objects, you already saw the first one is the hat she's wearing. That's made out of Hedgehog Fibers sock yarn. The specs for it's 90% superwash merino, 10% nylon, and the colorway for it's Taffy. I think it's really cute. I held it double to knit the hat. The pattern is one that I came up with when I was expecting Veronica, and I really wanted something that was simple, kind of classic, more in the petite knit vein of knitting styles. This particular version with the Taffy colorway doesn't look particularly petite knit because it's speckled and variegated and all that, but I did make other versions of this hat. I've probably made like 5 of these hats already. I'm still trying to tweak everything. But one of the first ones was this one, and I love this color. I believe the yarn is Drops Baby Merino, but I'll check and put the info here. But my goal with this pattern was to make a hat that could be worn right away, like right for a newborn, like taking home from the hospital and everything, because I found that most hats, at least for my kids, have been too big straight off. And so finding like newborn or preemie size hats was a little more difficult. And so I wanted to kind of fill that gap. My kids were all fairly small, like less than 6 pounds, born at like 37 and 38 weeks, that kind of thing. They're little babies. And so I wanted to find something that would suit them. And so anyway, something that would be stretchy, because you never quite know what size a baby's gonna be. If you can hear her, that's Lydia making her little mouse and goat sounds. Hopefully she'll be okay. Go to sleep. So I wanted it to be stretchy to fit pretty much any size baby head if possible. And I also thought eyelets were really sweet, and so I created a rib with eyelets in it. And it took some trial and error to get the ribbing to look right. So I'm really happy with where I landed on that. Here's a close-up of the yarn. I really like this color. I'll include the info for it. Then I also made this version, which I mean, this is probably, I think this is my first version. I did not get the ribbing right on that one. But I still love the color, and the yarn's really nice. It's Sandnes Garn Tin Merino wool. And the color for this one is Light Heather. And I believe the color number for it is 4622. Yep. And this one is also superwash, and it's 100% merino. And it's 50 grams equals 175 meters. Do you know if this yarn is technically fingering weight, or is it something else? I had a hard time judging because it seems a little plumper than other fingering weights, but I don't know. Not quite sure how to categorize that one. Same with the drops, but they're both really nice. And so I also, after I made the one that's on Lydia in the Hedgehog Fibers, I still had a fair bit left of that yarn, and so I thought, ooh, can I make another one with what's left in a larger size for Veronica? And so I made this one, and so it has a higher stitch count. Here's a close-up of the colors. Kind of see how the eyelets look. And so I really like it. I think it's too small for Veronica. She's 18 months now, but we'll see. I could try blocking it to see if it'll stretch. The one thing I noticed about this pattern, well, granted there is a lot of stretch in this. For instance, like this one, my son, who just turned 3, was wearing this like a month or 2 ago, and he would wear it without, like, no cuff, and it fit him just fine. It was really funny. Anyway, and it had fit Veronica when she was like 3 months or something like that, maybe a little older. That one also had a higher stitch count. But anyway, so it really grows with the kid, which I like. But anyway, as I was saying, I've noticed that especially with these versions, or the one that Lydia is wearing now, blocking is super necessary to get it to fit right. I finished the hat she's wearing, and I brought it to the hospital for when she was born, and so to take her home, I put it on, and I noticed, like, oh, that's a bit snug. Is that gonna be okay? And so I lifted it up, and it was leaving like little impressions on her forehead. I was like, oh, that's too tight. I'm gonna take that off. And so I was like, oh, bummer. Maybe I didn't get it right. Do I need to adjust the number of stitches and that kind of thing? But before I scrapped it, I decided to block it on a balloon. And so I blew up a balloon that's the same circumference as her head. And so I wet blocked it, stuck it on there, and let it dry. And so that worked perfectly. So that made it the right size. Now it fits her, and it doesn't, it fits. It's a fitted hat, but it's not pressing in on her at all. And so that works really well. And so I'm discovering, like, the key to this particular pattern is blocking it to be whatever circumference the baby's head is. And I imagine there's probably averages or ranges that are normal for newborns. So if I were to make a hat in this pattern for a baby that's before the baby's born, I could block it either after the baby's born and I know the circumference, or I could find an average and block it to that. I think that would be a good way to go. As far as like writing up the pattern, I really want to do that. I would love to have different versions. So one version would have just like straight fingering weight. Another would have fingering weight held double, which is what this one is. And I'd like to do another one that's worsted, I think, just to give options, and I don't know, I feel like it'd be nice. So hopefully I'll be able to write that up maybe in the next few months, hopefully. I don't know exactly. It'll take, I have more swatching and more samples to make to get it to work right. But 4 of my friends are expecting, and they're all due in September, October, and so I'll have plenty of opportunity to practice. It's funny how things kind of align like that sometimes. Let's see, I think that was everything for that one. Yes. All right, and my next finished object is one that you've seen before. These are my festival socks, even though there's not an actual pattern called that. They just feel festive to me, so I'm calling mine that. These are taken inspiration from Maui at a Homespun house. She made these, and so now I've seen on Instagram several people doing it, which is pretty cool. So here are mine. And I don't have sock blockers yet, but I hope to change that soon. We'll see how long that takes. So as far as the yarn goes, this first one, this neon coral pink here is one that I dyed. And then this gold color is Undercover Otter in their Squirm base. And the colorway is Hush. And this variegated purple, pink, and white is also one that I dyed. And the pattern for this basically is a normal vanilla sock, whatever you like. I used 64 stitches and 2.25 millimeter needles. And I did a tubular cast on here. And it's 10 rows of 1x1 twisted ribs, what I did. I think Molly did 2x2 rib. And then another 10 rows of the rib here in the gold. And then for the normal part, each color has 10 rows, and so the first 2 rows I did knit 3, slip 1. I did these cuff down. Knit 3, slip 1, and then for row 2 it's knit 3, slip 1, then 8 rows of normal stockinette, change colors, knit 3, slip 1, knit 3, slip 1, and then 8 rows of stockinette again, and keep going. And then I did a heel flap and gusset, and continued down, did a normal, a normal toe with Kitchener. Yeah, I'm really happy with these. I have not woven in the ends yet, so that needs to happen. It'll probably take a little bit. But one different thing I did that I haven't done for a sock before is you can see on this side where I changed the colors that there's a little jog there, and you can see some holes just because I haven't woven in the ends up and tightened those in yet. But for one sock, I changed colors on one side, and then on the other sock I did it on the other side, so they're mirrored. That way I could put the jogs on the inside of my feet, and so on the outside they look nice and even and straight. And so basically how I did that was, for one sock I knit the heel on the back needle for magic loop, and then on the other sock I put the heel on the front side of the magic loop needles, and so that kind of did that. So that was pretty cool. Yeah, let's see. For the next finished object, it's another pair of socks, and it uses some really special yarn. So before Lydia was born, my husband Nathan and I dropped our 2 kids off with my parents for the weekend, and we met up with his sister and her husband to go on like a pseudo baby moon again. We could have some adult time and just get away and have a bit of vacation. So I think it was at the end of January. We went to Evergreen, Colorado, and found a log cabin in the middle of nowhere, which was fantastic. It's at the end of this dirt road, and up in the mountains and lots of snow, and I'll put some pictures up of the cabin and our time there. It was very beautiful. It was so nice just to get away and have time together and have some good conversations and have fun and play games and go for a hike and that kind of thing. And we did lots of driving around, beautiful roads, all the mountain towns and like very small towns, super cute shops, and found a good cafe and that kind of thing. It was just lovely. But we flew, so his sister and her husband live in Denver, and so we flew from Salt Lake to Denver, and what a store that happens to be in Denver is Fancy Tiger Crafts, and I've heard about them for a long time, and I was really excited to see if we could maybe go, and so we did. And so my sister-in-law Michelle, she's a big crocheter, and so we really bond over yarn things and have lots of fun with that. So we went together, and I got a couple skeins of yarn and this fun pin. So I was a little on the fence because I haven't really gotten pins yet, but I'm really glad I did. It's pretty cute. The first yarn I got is Mondim by Retrosaria, and I was very excited to try this. I've heard a lot about it, and they had a lot of their colorways at the store, and this is the Daffodil colorway. It's really quite nice. It's one of their speckled ones, and I would call it a cool yellow. It's not a warm yellow, like it doesn't lean toward orange. I would say it leans more towards green, but it's definitely not green, it's yellow. It's really quite nice. I like it better in person than online. And so I guess the specs for it, let's see. The color number for it is 211. It is 100% Portuguese wool, and it's 100 grams, and there's 385 meters or 421 yards per ball. Yeah, I love the illustrations. I think it's fantastic. And the pattern I made with it is from a book. It's 52 Weeks of Socks. I got it for Christmas, and I was super excited about it. I made the stone pattern by Tatiana Kulikova. This one. These look much better because they're blocked and worn and looking really pretty. I have not blocked mine. I just knit them and let them be. I would like to block them. I think they would look better. But here's the first one. And here's the second one. I actually knit 3 of these. I re-knit the first one I did because, it fit, but it was a little tighter than I wanted. And so by the time I finished the second sock, I figured out how my tension should be, and that one fits super comfortably, and it's great. And so I was like, well, rather than have one sock that's too tight and one that's just right, I like the pattern, I like the yarn, I'll just rip it out and redo it. And so I re-knit it. But yeah, so here's kind of how the stitch pattern is. You do the way you do it is through slip stitches, and it's kind of like Colorwork, except you're holding the yarn in the front and it's only one color. But what was super helpful about this pattern was that it really helped me practice tensioning my yarn differently, such that it kind of boosted my confidence for trying to do color work later. I haven't tried color work yet, but it was a really helpful way to practice doing something different and really loosening up the tension, still in a controlled way, but more intentional way, like doing what I'm doing for a purpose. But yeah, I love the pattern. I would really like to do this one again in kind of like a silkier, shinier yarn. I think that would really look nice as well, and it would really play off the pattern, make it a little more obvious. But anyway, it's really lovely. Yeah, highly recommend the yarn and the pattern and the book. Yeah, I think the book is finally at a reasonable price now. Like on Amazon, I think it's around like $18 or something, which is great for 52 patterns. Like when on Ravelry, like one pattern could be $5. But anyway, the next, or the last thing I got at Fancy Tiger Crafts was this other yarn. Same thing, different color. I love how the different Mondim colors have different labels with the illustrations. I think they're just so fun. I think they randomize which illustration they use, so like they might have different illustrations for the same colorway. But anyway, I think these are super cute. I love them. Anyway, this color is super nice. It's a neutral brown, color number 209, and they called it Oreo. And same specs. It's so pretty. And I have a lot left, so I'm excited to do something more with it. What I did with this yarn is I made the Leyre mittens by Mandarins. I'll put the info here. So here is the first one. Oh, that's really showing the speckles nicely. Yeah, that looks really nice. This one actually uses the same kind of slip stitch technique to make these arrows. You can't see them very well with this yarn, I admit. I love the yarn. I love these mittens. I don't know that they're necessarily the best for each other. I think this pattern would do best with kind of a really smooth yarn that's one solid color. Kind of like how she shows in her pattern photos. She made a good choice. But I love them, and I will get lots of wear out of these. I would love to make more of these. They're fantastic. I did make some changes. I really liked the gauge of this yarn with the needles I used for the stone socks. And so I went down a needle size than what the pattern calls for. I used 2.25 instead of 2.5. And I also made the size small. And that's because I really wanted like fitted mittens that weren't too big. These are actually the first mittens I've ever made. And so that was really fun, and I enjoyed that a lot. I was a little intimidated at first by the whole thumb thing, but it was just fine. It was actually pretty fun to put it on waste yarn and come back to it later. So here's how they fit. And so I'm actually really happy with these and the fit. Yeah. And so they come down to here, which I think is a really nice length. It'll tuck into my coat well, and the cuff detailing here is below my hand and where the thumb goes out, so it doesn't feel restrictive at all. It just feels really quite nice. You can kind of see the arrows a little bit better actually when it's on. Yeah, it's really nice, and you can kind of see these little bumps here, which is a really simple, nice pattern, and it also helps you keep track of where you are as you're knitting. the biggest change I made to these besides the gauge was the thumb. So when I first did it, I got up to probably here, I think, and I actually made this too loose and puffy. I did it the same way that I made the stone socks, because I knew that with these, I would need lots of stretch to get over my heel. I have somewhat of a high instep, and so it's like, okay, you make sure these are loose enough. So I pulled those, I pulled the slip stitches for those pretty far, the floats, I guess. So for this one, I just did the same thing because I figured that's how it worked before. But then they were too loose and puffy, and they looked weird. You kind of lost the arrow effect even more. So I knit up to here following the pattern instructions, and it was too tight around the thumb area. I definitely would not say that's a fault of the pattern. I would say that's a fault of me using a smaller gauge and this size small and just changing things up too much. But anyway, because I liked the gauge, I wanted to keep it, so I wanted to find an alternative to make the thumb fit. And so I found the pattern, like World's Simplest Mittens or something like that by Tin Can Knits. It's a free pattern, and so I figured, hey, it has a thumb gusset and it's free, let's give it a try. And so I followed the instructions for their thumb gusset, starting like maybe like right there, so it comes out there, and then I put it on waist yarn here, and then kept going. And I think it's great. I love the fit. It fits great. It's not restrictive at all. I'm really happy with these. So yeah. Oh, when I reknit the arrows the second time around, I made my floats about 1 inch long, if that's helpful. I found that to be a good length to make the floats. It's stretchy enough to get over my hand, but it still looks like it's not too poofy, like they're not sticking out all over the place. Let's see. So yeah, definitely recommend the pattern. I plan on making these again. It really doesn't use much yarn. It's really enjoyable to knit and customizable. And the other fun thing about this project was I didn't have mitten blockers, and so I made some. Let's see, earlier this spring or late winter, whatever, a couple months ago, Nathan and I decided that instead of getting each other birthday gifts this year, we would pitch in our money and put in some like vacation trip money to buy each other fun gadgets. And so he got me a laser cutter and I got him a 3D printer. And so like with knowing we would have a newborn for a while, we wouldn't get to go on like any fun trips this spring. And so we're like, okay, we still want to do fun stuff. We'll do it at home. And so we'll do this. And so I was playing around and I came up with a design for mitten blockers, and I really like hearts, and so came up with this one. This is a test cut, and so I just did it out of cardboard. And when I put the design into the laser cutter software, it didn't keep the measurements correct, and so it made this gigantic one, which is like, that's not gonna work. So it's like, as it was cutting it, I was like, something seems odd about this. But anyway, I liked the general idea of it, and so I redid it on cereal box cardboard next. And if anyone's interested in doing laser cutting, I recommend this over normal box cardboard because it cuts a whole lot easier, and it's still sturdy. And so this time it actually is the right size. That works a lot better. And in testing it out, I realized that, oh, there's a design flaw in this. This one has a thumb like totally attached. I couldn't get, and like aside from the size, I did this design in this material, and so I like put it on, and then I realized, oh, the cuff can't go over the thumb, and it's not bendy, and it can't act like one of our thumbs that can like squish in. So that's not gonna work. So I made this second piece that is flexible, and you just tie it on. And after Googling images of other mitten blockers, I realized, like, oh, that's why they have separate thumb pieces, so they can actually get it in the mitten. That makes sense. I see your logic. And so I just tied it on, that way it won't get lost, and it's still easy to get in, and you can kind of wiggle it around in there. But let's see. Yeah, and so then made this version, and once I realized that this worked, I put it on Baltic birch plywood, and here's the almost final result. I still need to sand them and put paste wax on them to make them nice and smooth. I hope to do that soon, but I didn't want to wait and try and podcast till I did that. I wanted to go for it. And another part that I'm excited about, like, I love the hearts, but I put the shape of the Sego lily up here, with this being the Sego Fibers podcast, and me having the Sego Fibers kind of Etsy shop, that's kind of my thing, and so I wanted to have like a little icon to go with it and kind of mark it as mine without literally writing it on there. So I liked that. And if you're curious, the Sego lily is Utah's state flower, and I'm in Utah, so I kind of wanted to embrace the Utah-ness of it without being too overt about it. The first time I saw a Sego lily was in Bryce Canyon National Park, and it was just so fun. Beautiful place to go, seeing this beautiful little white flower just amongst all the gigantic ponderosa pine trees. I think that's what they were. It was really beautiful with the red rock cliffs and the hoodoos and everything. Highly recommend going there. Amazing place full of wonder. But yeah, so that was a fun experience. And I don't know if you can see, but this is a pastel drawing of kind of a Utah-esque landscape. I'll probably feature it some other time, but there's a Sego lily right there. Kind of embracing all of that. But anyway, I'm really excited to have blockers, and now that I've figured out how to do these, I would like to make some sock blockers. I ordered some really nice walnut wood for those. So I'm trying to practice before cutting into that, because I only have one piece and I don't want to waste it. All right, so that's it for the mittens. All right, for my work in progress, I'm housing it in this lovely bag. Let's see, it's a drawstring, and I love the flowers on here. My mom got me this for my birthday. It's perfect. It's by Granny's on the Go, and let's see, her website is grannysonthego.co or grannysonthego.etsy.com. So I'll put that there so you can see. It's extremely well made. It's a great size. There's pockets all the way around. You can see I have 2 balls in here. They're each 100 grams, and projects and all sorts of things. Oh, and the print here is by Rifle Paper Company, which I'm really into their stuff, so you might see their stuff pop up again. But yeah, so it's I enjoy it. So the yarn I'm using for this next pair of socks is yarn that I dyed, and I'll put a picture over here of it all skeined up and balled up. And then here is the gray caked up. It's a really neutral light gray with black speckles. Kind of see some of that there. Very simple. And this yarn is a self-striping and with super bright colors. So we have this kind of spearmint green, bright orange, that kind of neon coral again, blue, yellow, and purple. There's some purple hiding in there. And so the way I did this one, it's a random self-striping, and so I wound it such that each individual stripe is a different amount. So like as you knit it, the stripes will be different widths and in a random order of colors. And so I intentionally did not pay attention to like how I was ordering the colors. And so sometimes it'll be like green, yellow, blue. Other times it'll be pink, green, orange or something. And it's just a surprise as you knit. It took me so many hours to wind it. I really love the end result, but I need to find a way to do this that doesn't take so long. I would love to do more like this. But that will take some figuring out or engineering of some sort of contraption to help me do that more efficiently. I would love to be able to do that quicker. If you have any ideas or can point me into any recommendations for anyone else who's already made progress on that, I would love to know. Anyway, I finished the first sock, and let's see. Yeah, here's the first one. Oh, the pattern for this is a free pattern. These are the Spotty socks, and I'll put the info here. But you can kind of see I differed from the pattern for the cuff just because I felt like doing a 1x1 twisted rib. Did a tubular cast on and just started going. This is the first time I've ever done mosaic color work, and this also has you do floats, but it's in a very kind of easy to do way. Like it's like a precursor to stranded color work, I guess. So I'm doing all the in-between steps before actually jumping into normal color work. But they also happen to be patterns that I wanted to do anyway, so it seems to work out. But yeah, so here's the pink, and the purple, and the orange, and you can see like the pink and the purple, they might actually be the same width, but the orange one is taller because there's more of it. And then here's the yellow, green, blue, pink. This one actually does repeat, but that was an accident. So sometimes randomly it'll just start over again. But anyway, I'm glad this one has all the colors, the sock. That's kind of fun. I did a heel flap and gusset, and what I like about this is that the bottom is stripes, and so that feels kind of sporty. Sporty and spotty. But yeah, I'm really happy with these. These are a gift knit. I have a feeling that I'm planning to have a lot of my knits this year be gift knits. I have lots of plans. Hopefully I can do at least some of them. But anyway, this is my first one. And I'm really loving how they turn out. This person likes bright colors, and so I wanted to find a way to incorporate bright colors. And I am really pleased. It's a really fun pattern to do. It has kind of a waffly texture feeling. I'm not sure if it'll keep that once it's blocked. Maybe it will. It's okay if it does or doesn't. So here's that, and heel flap and gusset, then gray toe. Yeah, and I am on the gusset for the second sock. So for this one, let's see, tuck those ends in. So this one started, the other one started with pink, and the other one is starting with an orange and then going to blue. You can see how it's a little bit more random this time. Orange, blue instead of orange, yellow, and then blue, green instead of green, blue. Anyway, I like the surprises, and they have the different lengths again. So now I'm on the gusset here. It's a really enjoyable knit. I'd recommend it. And as far as color choice go, I think these would be really lovely with like a beigey cream color instead of the gray, and like a mauvey pink thing for the spots. Like, you don't have to use the self-striping for this. I think that you could make these like really nice and subtle. You could make these really wacky. It's a way to use self-striping if you're not quite sure what to do with it, or if you want to tone it down. I think it's quite a versatile pattern. And it's really not using up much yarn because you're starting with 200 grams, and socks don't take that usually. And so, I mean, I'm on my second sock and I'm over halfway and I still have this much yarn. And so my plan for this is to make matching mittens, because why not? I'm on a mitten kick apparently. Or I've done one, now I want to make another pair. So I'm going to kind of figure out a stitch count and use the stitch pattern. If I figure it out, I'll write it down and post it so anybody else can use it. And since the sock pattern is free and it's a really simple thing, so I'll just make it a free thing for people to copy. Yeah, so I think there's going to be plenty of yarn, probably even after the mittens. Oh, the specs for these socks. I made these in the 68 stitch count on 2.5 millimeter needles. All right, and here's a new segment called Sock Experiments. And so it's kind of a retelling of my sock knitting journey, because that's probably my favorite thing to knit. So last time I showed my first attempt at a sock, which is like half of one sock. So I would not call that my first pair, because it's not a pair and it's not even finished. So here is my first pair of socks. Here we go. These are just vanilla. These I actually used the Fish Lips Kiss directions, not only for the heel, but also the rest of everything else. And I even made the cardboard cutout that they talk about, all the different lines. I actually found this hard to use. I love the heel that comes with it, but the rest of it I found difficult, or is not necessarily difficult to do, but difficult to make it fit right. And with it being my first pair of socks, I didn't quite know how, like, it wasn't intuitive to me how it was supposed to feel. I think having knit socks now, and I were to go back, it would probably go better. But I don't know. Anyway, the yarn for this, the orangey color, this is, here's one of the balls I have left. I did these toe up 2 at a time. This is really pretty, I think. This one is Maui yarns. They're fingering weight 80/20, and this colorway is Hot Lava. And the colorway for the blue is called Catch a Wave. And let's see. I don't have any more of the blue to show you because I made a shawl out of it for my mother-in-law. That worked out really well. And I paired it with a yellow. She really likes blue and yellow. But yeah, for this one I used, it's a 68 stitch count with 2.5 millimeter needles. I used the Addi Rocket2 or something like that. They have these kind of impressions on it, which I don't mind at all. I think it's fine. And I like the nickel plated smoothness of it. It's quite slick. The points are fine, but it has this blue cord that really remembers how curly it is, and it never uncurls. And so I found it really frustrating to knit with, because as I would turn my work, the cord would slap me in the face, and it just made me angry. And knitting is not supposed to make us angry. So I have since switched to Chaogu needles, which are definitely my favorite. So anyway, these socks came out too big, and actually the first time I wore them, I stepped on a piece of plastic and it ripped a hole in the bottom, and so I have pseudo a hole. It could probably be fixed, but yeah, you can kind of see right there. So that's a bit of a bummer. So I really haven't worn these, but it was a good experience to figure out how to knit a pair of socks. In my quest to find the perfect vanilla sock recipe that works for me, I've discovered that the Fish Lips Kiss Heel does not work as well as other ones. I can use it just fine in a more patterned sock that has more stretch. That works better. But this doesn't work so well for me with vanilla socks. Let's see. But I really like how easy it is to remember, and it's nice. I mean, it's a nice working heel. As far as dream knitting goes, regarding the linen yarn that I showed last time, I was really trying to decide on what pattern to use it with, and I found a new pattern since then that I'm actually pretty excited by, and what is it called? It's called Lynn by Irene Rasch. I'll put the info here, and it's actually a free pattern, so that's nice. And I love that it has vertical stripes, and like the stripes look really natural and like they're supposed to be there. They don't look like, oh, I don't have enough yarn of each color, so I'm gonna stripe it and make it work. It looks intentional and on purpose, and I really like that. And I like that they're vertical, which is different from most of what I've seen. And yeah, so I'm gonna give it a go. I've actually never made a garment before, and it looks fairly simple. We'll see when I get into it. My son is just waking up from his nap. Sorry for the kid noises. So let's see. We'll try and wrap this up. But I'm excited to try and knit that. We'll see when. I'm not quite sure when I'll cast it on. I would love to be able to wear it this summer. That would make sense. It looks like the kind of shirt that I would enjoy wearing and actually use. And I had considered cropping it because I don't like how it looks untucked long. It looks, I don't know, frumpy or baggy, not quite right what I'm going for. So I thought about cropping it and wearing it with like high-waisted jeans. That would be really cute. But then in the picture where she does have it tucked in and it's kind of like folded under, I really like the bubble look. So I think I will continue. I'll probably knit it to pattern and make it long, but always wear it tucked in. I think that would be cute. So I'll try that. And it'll probably be easier to estimate yardage because I'm not changing anything like that. So yeah, so that's probably dream knitting. And another bit of dream knitting is also connected to a gift I received. So randomly, my sister-in-law, Kristen, she sent me this wonderful book. So it's knit like a Latvian. And so there are these beautiful mittens. So I hope that wasn't blurry. Man, they're just so pretty. And so having just made my first pair of mittens, it's like I'm not too intimidated by this. And with all my pre-practice of pre-color work techniques, I think I could give this a go with real stranded color work. I'm not super intimidated now. So I'll show you one of the ones that, well, I really like the ones on the cover. Another one, I also really like these. I think those are really pretty. Anyway, those are some really fun, really pretty patterns that I'm looking forward to doing. They recommend some really small size DPNs, so I'm trying to source those. And because I really don't, I knit magic loop for everything, and so I don't have DPNs, especially that size. I don't have any needles that size. They want like US size 000 or something. They're 1.5 millimeter, 8-inch DPNs. So I'm gonna look for some steel ones. I think I have an idea of where I can get them, but I probably won't order for a little bit just because I have other things to knit right now. And I'm also curious to try some different yarn, maybe Jameson and Smith, something like that. They have some really beautiful colors that I'd like to try. Yeah, so that's a bit of acquisition. So thank you, Kristen. I'm excited to knit some of those. And then as far as life updates, you've already seen the biggest one. I'm welcoming Lydia to our home, and she's doing well. She's eating and sleeping better than our other two did. So I think that's probably why I'm here podcasting now, is because we got lucky with her sleeping. As far as other life updates go, I'm transitioning from working part-time to just working as a mom. And so, yeah. So I've been a graphic designer for 13 years. The vast majority of that time was full-time. So I don't know, this will be different. I'm looking forward to it. I'm really grateful for the opportunity to stay home and kind of take care of the kids and that kind of thing. My mom really wanted to do this, but she didn't have the opportunity. And so since it is an option for me, I wanted to take it and kind of see how it goes. And since I didn't grow up that way, I don't really know day to day what it looks like. So it's new territory, trying to figure it out and just trying to, I don't know, see how it goes, figure out what works for us, and lots of singing. Yeah. So we'll see where things go. Hopefully there's more time for this kind of thing, at least eventually. We'll see. Like I'm doing this, like all the kids usually nap at the same time, and so I'm trying to do the podcast during that time, and so we'll see. Obviously they're starting to wake up now, so I'm gonna have to go, but yeah, we'll see how things go. It's an adventure, it always is. One thing that might be a bit of interest, if any of you are expecting or are breastfeeding or know people who are, I found a recipe for lactation cookies. And that sounds really weird. They're oatmeal chocolate chip cookies that are supposedly to help you produce more milk. And who knows if it works or not, but they taste really good. And so I figured it's an excuse to eat a tasty cookie. I'm gonna try it. I really like them. I'll include a link to the recipe below. So yeah, I think they're really tasty and they freeze well. It makes a big batch. The recipe says I think it makes 36. When I did it earlier today, I think it made more. So I'll put some in a Tupperware and then I'll just freeze the rest and bring them out whenever I want. So yeah, if that's interesting to you, feel free to try and make them. Yeah, I think that's it for now. Hopefully I'll see you before too long. I would love to be able to do this every 2 weeks. We'll see. I'm not making promises because I don't have a rhythm yet and I don't have it figured out. So we'll see. I will try and see you again soon. Thank you for joining me for all of the knitwear, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Happy knitting!